I am back from the office after another sort of productive workday, and I really just wanted to talk about some media that I've been enjoying over the last couple months instead of doom scrolling, like movies, music, internet videos that I have found and continue to think about or revisit since I first discovered them. They're not really connected with any theme other than like my own taste, I guess, but hopefully there'll be something in here that sounds interesting to you that then you can go and enjoy. And I would also love it if you would leave details of things that you've been enjoying in my comments, so then I have more things to discover. Firstly, I want to talk about a couple of movies that I've seen in the last few months, starting with Cure. Not me watching the trailer right now, hold on. Dude. Wow, this trailer is showing fucking everything. That's crazy. Let's put it on a nice screen grab for you guys. Hold on. Wait, I love this man. I have to watch this later. Oh, and I want to watch this too. Cool. I need to not get sidetracked. So yes, Cure is a 1997 Japanese psychological thriller / like crime procedural following a detective as he attempts to track down and understand what is going on with this like series of murders that are all like bizarrely similar. There are a lot of things that really work for me with this film. Of course, there's a lot of like technical prowess within it. I think that the sound design, which is very like lots of walls of sound like throughout the film, does a lot to kind of like leave you in this weird like liminal space like feeling that creates like a real just like eeriness to the film, while also like feeling kind of distanced from everything because of the way it's shot. There's lots of like long shots, wide shots, long takes, that like all just like create such an atmosphere. And I think that our two like main lead actors are so strong in the film. I really love Koji Yakusho. He's so cute. I was introduced to him in Perfect Days, which I saw a few years ago and really loved, and it was crazy to like watch this film that is like such a different character, and just like how he kind of brought our character's psychology to life like throughout the film, and also like truly one of the most haunting like antagonists I've ever like watched in a film. 前は俺の中にあったものは今全部外にある。その代わり俺自身は空っぽになった。It's a very kind of slow burn. You never feel settled throughout the entire watching experience, even though it is like very uncomfortable in a way. Like it's weirdly like a world that I'm like really excited to like return to and watch again and like feel the same kind of like peril that I felt. But more than that, I think without like really spoiling anything, like what the film seems to be suggesting to me is something about the core nature of like humans, or at least this specific set of characters that we encounter in this film, and how like, you know, under the kind of like malaise or like appearance of contentedness in our day-to-day kind of mundane lives, I think it suggests kind of like something in, I guess, the core of humans that's a little bit rotten. I think that's a really cynical outlook on humanity, but the film isn't really portraying it with that kind of emotionality. It's really kind of distanced in a way and sort of just like, well, it is what it is. In that sort of just like, well, it is what it is, period, end of sentence. Like that's some of where I think like the horror of this film lies, because I think we want to look for a deeper explanation sometimes to like acts of just true evil. And when we can't really find a, like, I guess a motive, even if it's sort of unhealthy or unhinged, for like something tragic to occur, like just cause at the core of me is this like bad thing. Like, I don't know, something about that just like really lives with me and haunts me when I think about this movie. And again, I think it's executed so well because of the sort of barren but also overwhelming atmosphere that is created through the sound design and the shot choices and the kind of like editing that at some point becomes a bit more disorienting, and it's a little bit tough to make sense of perhaps like what's reality and what's like happening in the mind of our character or in a dream. And I just think the tonal consistency throughout the film is what really like drives, I guess, like this narrative home and like kind of a stake in my heart type of way. And I don't know, there's like not much more I can say, I feel like, without like revealing sort of what I guess is happening. And so I just don't want to say anymore, but like I actually think this might be one of the best movies I've ever watched in my life. The next movie that I want to talk about is actually one that I like just saw in theaters the other week. It's My Father's Shadow. It's a Nigerian film about two young brothers exploring Lagos with their estranged father during the 1993 Nigerian election crisis. And it's really interesting that like the perspective that we're sat with is these two kids, because like on the one hand, they're kind of experiencing like the wonderment and like a clear like love and appreciation for like the like Nigerian culture and Nigerian people that's like coming through from the director's side. We're seeing all this like, and there's a kind of beauty to it and a lightness and kind of an excitement, like that new feeling of just like discovering something for the first time and having, you know, this man who you're kind of like he's your dad and like you're kind of love him, but you're also scared of him and fascinated by him, like all at once. He's kind of almost mythic to you, like having that go on. And at the same time, there is all of this political unrest, like in the city and in the country. And like how the movie chooses, I guess, to introduce that information to us, because we're hearing it in bits and pieces of conversation that these two young boys are like hearing their father have with like other adults in the film. I think it's really interesting to kind of come to conclusions about what's going on with you know, if you don't have historical like context for it, with just the little information the film gives you. And like it really does put you in the boys' shoes, like kind of piecing things together here and there, like realizing that their father is not just this like, you know, magical mythic man, but like he is a man in this society, and he, you know, has responsibilities to people, he has tensions with people, he makes promises and breaks them, like he has promises made to him that are broken, and like kind of turning their father into like really seeing him as a human being. I'm almost left with, and it's probably just because of like my age and everything, but I'm like kind of like how complicated it is to be a person who's also a parent who has like young people like looking up to you, like to know what to do and to do the right thing, and like just being fallible and being human, and like kind of hiding that from them for what you think is their own good, and then also like them seeing those sides of you and having to kind of admit your own humanness to them in a way, even especially as a man, I feel like, where you maybe feel this, you know, duty to appear very strong, like to show vulnerability or weakness or admit where you've made mistakes. Like all of that, I just think it's very complicated, and I really appreciated watching that kind of like unfold and build throughout the film. It's also a directorial debut. I believe it was written by two brothers, which is like lovely, and also maybe makes sense for why like this sort of brother like sibling relationship like felt so authentic. And just true to like boyhood of that like age, that like, I don't know, there's something kind of universal about boyhood, it seems like, regardless of like what country you're from, that is really charming as well. I wish I had more to say about this movie other than like go see it, but I really, really enjoyed it. Next, I'm going to talk just a little bit about some music, starting with the Bulgarian female state choir. Whoa, I'm like super washed out because I'm on the Wikipedia page now, but they fucking rock. I was introduced to them through, I think it's like an Adam Neely video, like analyzing some TikTok that went viral because of like a super dissonant harmony that this girl like did to some other video. I don't know, it was like 2022 or something. It's so long ago, like who cares? But the video from Adam Neely is really good if you're interested in like what is going on when we hear like dissonant harmonies, like from a musical theory standpoint. But that's how I was introduced to the state choir, through the song Kaval Spiri, which then I think last year or 2 years ago now, I like got to do a pop-up choir where we like sang that song, which was so sick. But finally this year I decided to listen to Le Mystère des Voix Bulgares, Volume 2, which is where the Cavalsviri is housed within this album. And it's so good. Like if you like dissonant harmony and the kind of weird textures that creates, like sonically, like things that are unfamiliar, I think, to like our, you know, accustomed to Western sound, like ears, like it's really worth a listen to just like expand like what you kind of understand is like possible when it comes to harmonies in music. I think there's like lots of rhythmic and harmonic like decisions that are made throughout the album that are like kind of eerie sometimes or uncomfortable, but then they find their own unique like resolution, and I just really enjoy music, I guess, that surprises me, music that doesn't go where I think it's gonna go, and I've just extremely been enjoying this album. Hold on, I have to show you something. There's this song in particular that I really like, this one. Ooh. Yeah. It's like I can't even like repeat it because it's like so unfamiliar. Like I can't. But I'm just like, I don't know, it's fascinating, it's surprising, it's a little bit like icky sounding in a way, like just because I'm so accustomed to like a really, you know, standard like musical scale, like feels like it's scrubbing my brain a little bit, like as it gives me just more to work with than I think like music that just like kind of like goes exactly where I expect. And like all their voices are so beautiful, there's so much control and power, and like they're able to really play with dynamics in a way that I admire a lot. Like I'm pretty sure that like how they scout this choir is just like going to different villages and like looking for the most beautiful sounding voices and being like you. That might be really wrong, but that's what I think I've read so far. Let's check the Wikipedia. Let's confirm on the Wikipedia because we're already here. Hold on. Yeah, singers are chosen from country villages for the beauty and openness of their voices and then undergo extensive training in the unique centuries-old singing style. Like, that is so crazy and so cool. I was looking on like a Reddit forum about this, and there really isn't like a lot of discussion, like, which I'm kind of like, what the hell? Like, we need to be talking about that. Like, I need someone who understands music theory, because I don't know shit, to explain what's going on that makes this so tasty and also like kind of confusing to my brain at the same time. But someone was saying that like in their college they were like part of a Bulgarian like choir, like just as kind of like a fun like elective. And low-key, I live in New York City. Like, if I can find it, a Bulgarian folk choir in New York City is maybe calling my name. The other music, like, album that I just want to talk about is the debut from Juliana Hatfield. I always honestly forget her name, and I'm sorry. Juliana Hatfield? Hatfield. I don't know why I want to say it like Hotfield or something. I don't remember how I discovered this. It was honestly probably like in one of my playlists, there was like a song of hers like as a suggested thing to add. And I'm an album girl. I like to listen to the full thing. And I liked the cover and I was like, cool. And the first time I listened to this album, I actually was like, I don't know, like there's like maybe a song or two that I like, but it's just like not really hitting. I don't think I'm gonna listen to this again. And then I just like kept thinking about some of the songs, like they actually got earwormy and stuck in my brain. And then I was like, oh, I was wrong, my bad, Juliana, I wasn't familiar with your game. So I returned to the album and I've since listened to it a lot. I don't think I love every song on it, but there are a lot of songs that I really like. She's just kind of one of these like badass like women musicians from the 90s. I'm like, let's look her up too. Like, I don't know shit about her. I don't normally know a lot about the things I'm consuming. I'm just kind of enjoying them. Oh, that's super cool. She went to Berkeley. What the heck? That's awesome. Oh my God, there's a lot to learn about her. I'm getting like really excited. I will read this later. But for now, I just know this album and that hit song, that hit single is so good. I think that's probably the one that got stuck in my head. It's called Universal Heartbeat. There's this accompanying music video that is like really charming and a little bit strange, which I like. Oof. She looks so fucking cool, right? She has the same sort of like kind of edge and grit and like cool girl factor to her that like the Tori Amos, Fiona Apples, etc. of the musical world like have, but I just feel like she was kind of like, I don't know, missed a little bit by like the limelight, but I'm super happy I discovered her. I think that she does some things that are really, again, surprising and interesting to me. Like with the guitar, she takes it like chordally, if that's a word, like in directions that I am not always expecting. The album on the whole has a very like lighthearted and fun energy to it, while also like being kind of gritty because of like the distortion of the guitar, and again some of these like kind of darker, moodier chord choices that like I feel like I wouldn't necessarily expect. If you're looking for just kind of like more cool, kind of edgy but still like poppy, like catchy girl guitar musicians from the 90s, like she might be someone to add to your list. My last music thing, which is also kind of like a YouTube internet thing, is this KEXP performance from Crumb, who I saw at like the, what is it, like the Prospect Park like band shell a few years ago, and they're so good live, but I haven't really kept up with them since like Jinx, I think. And this KEXP performance kind of just came up on my like I guess suggested from YouTube when I was like working the other day and I needed something to play in the background, and oh my god, like they're so good. And it's not just like, I think that the lead singer has such kind of like a unique tone to her voice and like very like buttery almost, and like there's something just really like ethereal about her voice at the same time, like that just creates something, it's like just like drippy, like wet, like cool, like I don't know. I really like how their sound has like developed since I last checked in with them, and I think the production on this KEXP performance is outstanding. Like it truly sounds fucking incredible. It's great music to put on if you just kind of want to like and they're a really cool and like great band in general. Like I've liked everything, like every era that I've heard from them, but I just think that they're in a really cool place right now with their evolution, and like more eyes need to be on them and more people need to watch this KEXP thing, please, for the love of God. I also am not going to talk about it, but I have watched this Geese Tiny Desk concert like a lot, and I do like them and I do like it. And sorry, as my final like pieces to share with you, I have this YouTube video that I liked. Yes. This video from some guy, Coley, don't know the man. All of his other content is like Scooby-Doo related or something to my understanding, which is great. But he has this amazing video about losing weight using only Wii Fit. And as someone who like during the financial crash of 2008 was like unaware and playing like Wii Fit, this really hit home. This video was so funny. There were so many moments where I just like laughed out loud, like kind of in some ways like the nostalgia and like remembering like the fucking hula hoop game that I played so much and like the steps counting and whatnot. But Coley just has like a very like funny tone of voice and delivery. He's really great at like kind of building like tension and then like a climax and then like a beautiful conclusion like throughout the video at several points. There's real turning points, there's real narrative like storytelling like throughout, and it was just like a treat to watch something that's kind of like lighthearted and like not just making me feel utterly dreadful, and like really ends on like a sweet and positive sort of like note that I wasn't necessarily expecting from a video that I went in like assuming it would be a lot more like sarcastic and insincere. There's like such a heart and sincerity in this video that I really enjoyed. And then my final piece of content for you that I shall recommend is actually a TikTok that is on my phone because that is where I watch TikTok. I'll just save it because I don't feel like screen recording it. It's a video from a creator named Audrey Collette. I'm not familiar with her either, but there's this video that came across my For You page that I really loved where she was talking about basically like we are missing out on some level of like feeling alive in our own aliveness by like being so risk averse as a generation. And she's kind of, you know, we see this, like there are studies that like, you know, we're, you know, partying less, we're breaking bones less, like we're having less sex or whatever than like all these other generations. And on some level it's super understandable because I think it feels like, and in many ways it is, like the world feels way more unpredictable than perhaps it did for like previous generations. And so it makes sense that like we are less willing to take chances unless it's like a sure bet. But I think to her point, and it's something that I really agree with and I think try to live by, is like when we're so afraid, when we're only ever going to make decisions like or choose to do something when it's very calculated and we can guarantee the outcome, it does kind of create I guess just sort of a numbness or empty feeling, I think. Taking a risk in the sense, at least how I took it, as like doing things where you don't exactly know what the outcome is going to be and you're kind of pursuing it more from a place of curiosity rather than like just a level of certainty. Like there's something about that kind of like shakes you up a little bit and like just really like all of your senses feel heightened and like awake again because like you're taking in some new information, something that you haven't experienced before. There's something very beautiful about that. There's something I think that's really energizing about that and empowering, and like in my own life has been very confidence boosting to like let myself take more risks. And I just think she does a really great job of like kind of laying out, in her view, this like element of like performance and like the benefit of like putting yourself sort of out there in that way. And so I really enjoyed that, and I'll link the full TikTok like in my description if you want to go watch it after this. Those are my media recommendations. Hopefully this was interesting, and if you like this type of video, let me know and I can plan to make more as I consume more things, maybe even some of your recommendations if you leave some for me in the comments, which I would really appreciate. I'm gonna chat with my friend, I'm gonna have dinner, and then I'll probably put on my Bulgarian female state choir album to like get ready to bed to. That sounds pretty much like the perfect evening to me, and so I'm gonna go do that now. And I hope that you have a really lovely rest of your night or morning, afternoon, whenever you're watching this, and I'll see you soon.